hope you can hear okay in the back. Hearing's good? Awesome, great. All right. Well, we want to be respectful of your time. We do still have some people arriving, so we'll get them checked in, but we want to go ahead and get started, and we have a lot of great information to share with you.
Okay.
So for those that don't know me, I'm Stephanie Parson. I'm a career full-time real estate broker, and together with my team, we have over 50 years experience in real estate, and some of our team is here working today, and so they help out with everything. We specialize in working with seniors, and we also have a downsizing company. We do that because we found that seniors need extra help. They need extra assistance, they need extra guidance, and we like working with seniors. So we then started this Senior Empowerment Truth Series a little over a year ago, and we've been growing. Thank you very much for our regular attendees. And so with that, we have a monthly seminar that's a different topic every month on a senior-related, issues and things. We want to provide you with information and options about all different things out there as we, continue to age. So with that, I wanted to find out how many new attendees do we have today? Quite a few. Okay, awesome. Welcome. Thank you so much. So just to kind of quickly give you an overview, a couple of housekeeping issues. We run the actual presentation, I'll call it, or interview from 10 to 11. Sometimes we run to 11:15. We do ask that you hold your questions until the end. We will stop at 11:15, if not sooner. We will get as many questions in as you have. If it's something extremely specific, our panelists will be sticking around afterwards that you can grab them and talk to them one-on-one then. So we do have handouts for you to write your questions down and for further information, so that if you have a question, jot it down so you don't forget it. We also have a no selling policy, so we try to be very general. We're not here to sell you today on anybody's services or products. There will be information, more information in the back if you would like to pick it up from anybody. And real quick, we do have, if you notice, few people in here have these nice binders. And those we just started today giving out to regular attendees. So if it's something that you feel beneficial and you want to continue to come and you would like to get a binder, check in at the back and you can sign up for our next seminar, and also check that you'd like a binder and we'll have one for you next time. Lastly, evaluations, that's the goldenrod sheet. We really appreciate any comments, ideas, suggestions that you have so that we can continue to provide valuable content and information. I think that's about it for that. So without further ado, I'd like for our panelists to come up, and I think they're going to have a lot of great information for you guys today. And that might need to be turned on, Charlene. Hello? There you go. Okay, all right. So, we have two awesome ladies here today. So, Charlene, why don't you start and tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself, why you're here today.
Hello, glad you all are here today. I'm really impressed. The weather's so bad. My name is Charlene Wong, and I'm an, yes ma'am?
Speak up, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, I will. I'll hold the mic closer. My name is Charlene Wall, and I'm a volunteer with AARP. I am a retired kindergarten teacher. I looked at AARP and found their driver safety course, and I thought, gee, I thought kindergartners and seniors, there's a good correlation there. I can work with that. So that started the process with AARP. They have a huge amount of information, and I love communicating with people, because every time I am in front of people, they teach me something, so I learn something as well. So thank you very much. And I'll volunteer with AARP. Call me if you need.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Denise Lee. I'm a certified professional organizer and a certified senior advisor. My company is Clear Spaces, and for the last 18 years, we've been helping people live the life they want to live without clutter and with purpose. And I love helping people understand their relationship with their stuff and taking command of that relationship.
Awesome, thank you. So our topic today is downsizing and the joy of letting go of things. And people are always interested in this topic of simplifying, becoming more organized. Whether you experience a life event or family, that you're encouraging family members to start the process. But there's always this thing that stops us, and it's called stuff. Okay? Does anyone else here have stuff? Yeah, right. We all do. So what we want to talk about today is how do we let go of this stuff that we're holding on to, that holds us back, and what it does for us when we can let it go, the joy that it can bring us in doing that. So there's a quote. The key to being happy is knowing you have the power to choose what to accept and what to let go. So know that we all have the power to make those decisions and do that. So, Charlene, let's start with a really important question. Do our kids want our stuff?
In a word, no. Exactly so. They do not want our stuff. Part of the reason is I grew up, I think many of you did, grew up with parents who were from the Great Depression. My children grew up with two working outside the home parents. There's a whole different philosophy, a whole different thought process. One of the examples I use is when I have Thanksgiving dinner at my house, I drag out the china that's 75 years old, and we spent the next 2 hours washing it because it will not go in the dishwasher, right? When I go to my kids' house for a dinner, they're smarter than I am because they pull out the paper plates. And we play games for the next 2 hours. We don't wash the china that only comes out once in a while.
Yeah, so true. So I know in talking with one individual, she did talk about that the kids don't want most of the extra stuff, maybe a few items, but they don't want to come and get it now. So she's having to store it for them. So yeah, different mentality based on the different generations. So Denise, why do we collect stuff? And is it just stuff? I mean, what does stuff mean to us?
So, stuff is really interesting because it's iconic. It is part of our identity. It brings us back to a better time. It helps us acknowledge our accomplishments. It can be part of our value system. It can be part of our culture. You talked about your parents in the Depression. You know, that was a culture that's different from today. And that affects how we look upon our stuff. But the bottom line is we have a relationship with our stuff. And that's the important thing to understand.
The relationship with the stuff. Okay, all right. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So Denise, what kind of effects can this clutter and excess stuff have on us negatively?
Well, stuff can do a lot of things to us. We can look at it and feel immediately guilty. It can cover our space to the point where it's not safe. Sometimes I have to talk to people about fire load. That's a real thing. It is basically when we value our stuff so much over our life, it's basically putting your priorities more in the stuff than your life. The other thing is that it affects our relationships too. And I like to talk about this thing called the clutter thermostat. Now, have you ever been in a room, it's 68 degrees. You're freezing, but your partner is boiling up. Who's right?
I am.
Always, always right. Clutter's the same way. What's acceptable to one person is completely unacceptable to the next. And for some reason, Cindy Glovinsky, who's both a therapist and an organizer, says that chronic clutterers marry automatic neat freaks. It's a real common thing. So a compromise has to be reached. So clutter affects our relationships, whether we know it or not.
Oh, I know it. I know it. I experience it in my home for sure. Both the thermostats, the real thermostat and the clutter thermostat, both. Yeah. So what are some of the things that we can benefit from when we do go through this process of freeing ourselves from excess clutter?
So one thing about clutter is that it often keeps us in a time that's not today. Okay, so all those accomplishments, all those things that you have that connect you to the past, a lot of those things can maybe keep you tied to the past, or all those things that one day I will find a use for this thing. It's all the potential for that thing. That keeps you tied to a future that isn't happening. And the reality is, all we have is today. So by decluttering, you can be more mindful of today. By decluttering, you can basically lighten up your situation and not feel guilty if the doorbell rings and suddenly you realize, oh my gosh, there's all this stuff on the coffee table, what are they gonna think? There's that peace of mind that you have what you need, but you don't have excess. So there's a lot of joy in that. You can focus on things other than your stuff.
So I think maybe what Denise was, Charlene was speaking of about the china versus paper plates. So living more in the moment.
Yeah.
And versus spending the 2 hours taking care of china. And what's really, really important is spending quality time with your family.
Right. Values. What's important to you? What do you value? Where are your priorities?
And I don't think kids value china anymore.
They do not.
No. My kids for sure don't want the china.
So in my line of work, people's stuff often becomes a safety concern. Or it keeps people from relocating. Or they have issues with getting health care into their home. So when we're talking about downsizing, there really is a bigger picture of so many more things to consider in addition to the actual stuff. So letting go of stuff and organizing helps keep seniors safe and allows them to relocate if needed and to get the assistance they need. So I know, Denise, that you deal with a lot of people who have extreme issues. You talked about fire hazards and that. So maybe tell us a little bit more about both of you, Charlene and Denise, about any experiences that you've had with this and what are some of the red flags to know that when you're getting to that point?
So I deal with a whole spectrum of folks who've had lifelong challenges with their stuff. And some of my clients have dealt with hoarding disorder. When you have your stove is covered, when you have small pathways from one room to another, that's a serious situation, and it's a dangerous situation. So if you find yourself in that situation, there are folks who can help you. And please consider getting help, because if a first responder can't help you, or they have to move stuff to get to you, those precious moments cannot be recovered. So, yeah, a lot of times when folks are dealing with a lot of stuff, they'll hear it from their family members or their friends. And things like, why do you have all this stuff? Or, this is messy. You hear a lot of things like that. But if a lot of people are saying that, stop and think about, and just ask yourself, get curious, not defensive, get curious, and ask, so how come they're saying that? Sometimes, if you're not sure, if you have too much stuff, you have too much stuff. Okay.
So Charlene, you've had a first-hand experience in downsizing. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, what that looked like, and what your experience and feelings were going through it and after?
I'd be happy to talk about it because it's pretty traumatic. It was, Denise will tell you some of the psychological benefits, but I can only tell you that I cheated. I just cheated. My husband was getting ready to go to India to train his replacement. They're bringing in people from around the country, around the world to take our jobs. So aside all that, he was going to be gone for 6 weeks. And before he left, I said, I'm ready to downsize. And he said, okay, so am I, because I'm retiring again. So by the time he came back in 6 weeks, again, I'm telling you I cheated. I sold the house, I bought a new one, and I had half the house emptied out. So I cheated. And Denise is going to tell you that's the wrong way to do it. And I know it was. I get it. I should have given him a little bit more consideration. I should have, but I didn't, because he is a hoarder. He's 75, about the same age as I am, and he has his college books that he hasn't opened in, no kidding. Oh, there's a hand going in. 50 years.
We just talked about that the other day.
These are high school books.
I'm sorry?
These are high school textbooks.
Oh, high school textbooks.
And college.
You did.
I do.
Okay.
You do.
Well,
Okay. Well,
that's unusual.
It is unusual. It is unusual. So when he came back, I did leave his things pretty much alone. I did get rid of all the empty boxes, and I let him go through it. So I did cheat, but I did give him the opportunity to go through his things. Part of the process, I was dealing with my grandkids while he was gone, because we all have our grandkids, and they're special, right? I told the kids what I was doing, and my 6-year-old granddaughter looked up at me and she said, you don't use this watch very much. Can I have it when you don't need it? And I'm thinking, well, this kid's onto it right now. She's wide awake. So I gave her the watch. Because you know what? There's a clock in every room I've ever been in. There's a clock in my car. I have my phone. I gave her the watch. Now, she's 6 years old. It's a Timex. What does it really matter? She enjoys it. Every time she comes over, she's wearing it. I get to see that she's enjoying it. So that was a win for me. If nothing else was saved, that watch was wonderful. And Denise will tell you that I did it the wrong way, but that's okay.
So what did your husband say when he came back, and what actions did he take?
He thanked me after he got over the shock that we'd actually moved and I had a new address for him. And there was that, but he appreciated it because he didn't have to deal with the kitchen, the pantry, the things that were kind of my domain. He didn't have to deal with my clothes, my games, my quilting supplies, my teaching supplies. All he had to deal with was you're laughing at me, I can see, with his books and his area of the world, which was really just about a quarter the size of this room. So he did appreciate it. And now that, and after he got over the shock, he appreciated it. My children looked at me and said, well, once they saw I gave the watch away, they said, well, can we have this and this and this? And I said, yes, you can have this. Yes, you can have this. But no, you can't have the popcorn pot because that's mine for now. You can get it later. So it was good. He did appreciate it after the shock.
Yeah. And I think when we were talking before, you said that it motivated him.
Yes,
Yeah. And just so they have an idea of how extreme it was, what can you give us an idea of like square footage of what you were at and then what you went to?
I'd be happy to. And a 4-bedroom house, 2,900 square feet into a house that was 900 square feet. That's what we bought. However, I'm sorry, I'll digress a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
We moved into the city, from the county to the city, and how they measure the old brick houses is they measure them from the outside. They do not measure them room by room by room. I did not know that. So when I moved into the house that first day, I had lost 100 square feet of space. So I had to downsize yet again. So make sure you understand what you're getting into, because that was my shock, trying to figure out how to get rid of 100 square feet of stuff.
I just want to say, I don't think you did it the wrong way, because you basically stated your intention. Your husband bought in. You also knew what he needed to decide upon, and you respected that. So I think that, it worked out. In the end, it worked out.
Okay, so I do appreciate that, because I felt like a cheat.
I think you were.
You got
You
it,
knew
Dawn.
him really well, and you worked with that knowledge, and that's a good thing. One thing I want to emphasize about talking to your family members about things. So sometimes I'll talk to folks about, depending on who I'm talking to, having a tea party or a pizza party, where basically the things you think your family members might want to have, you basically ask them, what do you want? And they can take it with them now. If it's something you want, kind of put a little painter's tape on the back of it and say this goes to this person. Yeah, because there's a lot of joy in seeing those things being used, both in the giver and the receiver.
So what's this strategy? It's having a tea party, a pizza party, having an event
Yeah.
that you invite
Invite your family, your friends, maybe,
All right.
and basically say, I'm going to downsize. What would you like? Now, if there's anything you don't want, to give away, then you need to state that your intention there. But yeah, and make it a party. And folks love that sort of thing. I've seen that work time and time again. It actually worked in my family too. We had a pizza party because that's what my mom really likes, is pizza and salad. And the grandkids, all got together too, and we gave some things away. And I spoke for an aunt who's out of town. I was her proxy, and I was able to bring some things to her that my mom knew she wanted. It was my mom's sister, so yeah. And it's one of the good things about that is that there's always a story, right? There's always a story behind our stuff. And being able to tell the story of our stuff helps us process letting it go. And that's really important. And that's a good strategy, is telling that story. If you don't have a person to listen to that story, write the story down, take a picture of that thing, keep it in a book. It's really, in fact, there is even software now to help with that. And whose name I completely forgot at the moment.
It's
But
okay.
it'll
It's
come
okay.
to me in a minute.
So this is something that you encourage clients to do.
Yes.
And what are some of the surprising things that come out of these typical results? Can you think of anything?
Well, what's common is folks will say at the beginning of the story, I'm not sure how I feel about this thing, which means I'm a little ambivalent in this moment about parting with this thing. And then they tell the story about the things. And I mean, the stories are amazing. I have heard some amazing stories in my life. Amazing. And we have that moment, that shared moment of, either crying about something, because sometimes things are iconic of painful times, or laugh. Sometimes they're just kind of poignant and there's a tear or two that we share. But it's just so important. And then after that story's told, people are able to let go of things. It's almost magical.
Can I add a personal?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Add a personal comment to that. I put myself through school, through college, working on shrimp boats and oystering. I'm from Louisiana. And I had this oyster knife, an oyster shucker. And when's the last time I shucked an oyster? Probably 50 years. When's the next time I'm going to shuck an oyster? Maybe another 50. So I told the story. I wrote the story down because nobody was listening to me. Kids don't listen to you anyway, do they? I wrote it down and I emailed it to my children, all my children. And the comment was, I didn't know you did that. And started a whole nother conversation. I was to tell them some of the deep, dark secrets of my college years. And that made that connection. It wasn't about the thing anymore. It was about our connection with my kids, which was terrific.
Interesting. So it can bring you closer and uncover some things that maybe family members didn't know.
And that software is Artifacts.
Oh, yes.
And it's ARTIFCTS. And I hope I remembered that correctly. Artifacts, without the A in the middle.
I've actually visited them at one of the conventions, so yeah, cool. All right. Another thing I can add is that it's surprising, and people tell me this, and I've experienced it, seeing my parents and grandparents downsize, or us having to disperse their personal belongings. The odd things that family wants, okay? A pancake turner, okay, was a recent thing that came up. He wanted the pancake turner because he remembers Grandma always making him pancakes when he would spend the night over there. She's like, I don't even remember making him pancakes that often, but that's his memory that's unique to him. And she got a big kick out of that. A pancake, it has no value whatsoever, but to him it did. So it's shocking sometimes what people will say that they want. It's not always things of real value, but it's a memory or something that's sentimental to them. So have you experienced that, Denise?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm going to circle back to when I said stuff is iconic things. We have relationships with stuff, and these stories underline that. It is absolutely true that we have these relationships with things, and that we can basically then transfer some of that relationship to families. I've had clients, with chipped plates, that somebody wants. I have this platter from my father's Aunt Sunny, and I spent a lot of time at her house. She had an amazing house. We always had fun. One of the things I loved about Aunt Sunny's house is that she raised, I don't know if that's the word, cultivated irises, the flower, and had a special species, I don't know the language, sorry, but a special iris that was she managed to create. Walking into the backyard of the Webster Groves house with fields of irises and the aroma, oh my gosh, so wonderful. So I have all these great memories. And when she moved, I got this platter from her house. It's a little chipped, but it has all these flowers, some irises on them. And every time I use that platter, I think about Aunt Sunny. So yeah, it's not a valuable platter, it's not fine china, it's ironstone. But man, I really love that platter, and I love using it because I think of Aunt Sunny and all of her flowers.
Okay, my platter is a popcorn pot. It's a Revere-ware pot. It's pitted, you know, the copper bottom pots. It's pitted on the inside, on the outside. It makes the best popcorn, the most unhealthiest popcorn in the world. But my kids are fighting for it already. And I hide it when they come over because they've been known to steal things from me. So, but my platter is the popcorn pot.
That's funny. That's funny. So, Charlie, one of the things I don't think that you spoke about was when you did this major downsize, okay, what did you experience and how did it change your life at all? And was there positives? You know, tell us more about that.
It was a terrific unburdening of stuff. It was stuff that I had that I'd forgotten I had. It was stuff that the kids had forgotten they had. It was very cathartic. It changed my life. I understand now. I don't collect stuff. If one thing comes in the house, a new pair of pants I buy, one pair of pants has to leave because I do not want to go through that again. It was physically difficult, moving all that boxes of stuff and going through it, sitting down, going through it. It was emotionally charged because I'm going through my life with my children, without my children, emotionally, physically, socially, my family. I didn't see my friends for 6 weeks because I was on this tear to get this done. And when I was done, it was like, it was wonderful. I have accomplished something wonderful. I have relived my life again with my children. I have more appreciation for my life, my children's life, my husband's life. This is our life. But it was wonderful. It was terrific. It was one of the most freeing experiences after I was done. In the process, it was difficult, but after I was done, I thought, man, I have accomplished something. And I got to see my life again. It's terrific.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So, there's a concept called the Swedish death clean. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? Is anybody familiar with that? Read the book? No? I think there's some show on Netflix or something. Yeah. So it's a well-known concept in Swedish and Scandinavian culture that you work on eliminating unnecessary items from your home to prevent your loved ones from being burdened with the task after you pass. And I think the psychology of letting go provides joy because really joy doesn't come from your stuff, like Denise said. Joy comes from relationship and experiences that those things represent. So downsizing your belonging helps you more fully enjoy the things that really matter to you. That be a correct statement?
Absolutely.
Makes you feel less stressed.
For
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
And one thing we didn't talk about, helps you better cope with the reality of your own mortality.
Oh yes, memento mori.
I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to happen to all of us. And really, think about it. I know a couple of you have mentioned how not only do you have your stuff, but you have your parents' stuff that you've inherited when they either went to a smaller space or passed away. And does it not feel like a burden? Do we really want to do that to our kids? So I think this Swedish death concept, really there's something to it. So I would encourage you, I know they have it, the book at the library, and it's kind of a morbid thought, but then I think there's so many positive benefits to it, like we've just been talking about. So Denise, any more comments on Swedish death clean?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm working with a couple right now, and one of the key concepts in that book is, this whole burden thing. And the husband said, yeah, I just don't want to burden our kids with all of this. And I said, yeah, it's this book, Swedish Death Cleaning. And I brought him a copy. It is like 125 pages, I think. You can read this in a couple hours. It's pour yourself a cup of tea, put your feet up and read it. It's really fast. And it's light reading too. Even though the topic sounds a little heavy, it really is, it's a lighter book. But yeah, it's important to remember that you have choices in this. It may feel like that's a burden, but remember, you have choices.
You have the power,
Yes.
okay? Right. All right, so we've talked about why it's a good thing to do, okay? Let's talk about how do we get started? I mean, it's overwhelming. A lot of times, the more you have, the more overwhelming it is. So let's talk about some solid tactics that you would encourage somebody to put in place.
Well, have you ever whittled? Anybody whittled? So when you whittle, I know this is going to sound really crazy, but there's a reason I'm asking. When you whittle, the whole point is to take little slivers off. And by taking those little slivers off, you create this beautiful thing. It takes time. But if you try to take a shortcut and take a big chunk out, one, you probably are going to hurt yourself. But two, you're not going to get the result that you want. So decluttering is a little bit like whittling. Small slivers. Take small steps. I recommend people maybe start in a storage area, because the stuff that's in storage, you probably haven't used in a long time, but the emotional charge of those things is probably reduced. Okay, stuff has just like magnets have charge, stuff has it too. So things that, let's say you just earned or you just got recently, they have a higher charge typically than something that's just been off in storage, kind of forgotten about. So if you start with I call the low-hanging fruit, and you start getting yourself going on that, maybe set a timer. Timers are wonderful things. Maybe get an audiobook. And the only time you listen to that audiobook is when you are decluttering. You link those two things together. Yeah. Or, maybe you offer yourself a carrot, like going to Andy's, which is not really a carrot, but hey, you get the idea. And the only time you're going to do that is when you do the decluttering. You got to be honest with yourself. Then you go through these things and you feel that sense of accomplishment and you start gaining confidence. And then as you go through those things, you are basically building your decision-making muscle and your confidence so that the things that do have more charge, emotional charge, are a little easier to tackle. So start small, start in one area of the room, work clockwise or counterclockwise, but just work in a direction. Don't be a bumblebee going from here to here. Just go around there. Know who you want to donate stuff to. Write that down. And then disperse those things as soon as possible. Don't let your donations sit around. Because you know what happens.
Well, I can speak to that, because my husband is always like, get it out now. Don't, and I'm like, my daughter's back there shaking her head, let me haul it off for you right now. And I'm always like, no, I got more stuff, so we'll just wait. What I have found is why he says that is because I will have a tendency to second guess myself and start digging back through things that I've already decided to discard of. So is that the reason why?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And then just the closure. Just having closure that it is done and done. That is such a good feeling. You had that feeling.
Exactly. Her low-hanging fruit for me was the pantry, because I buy stuff on sale that I know I'm not going to eat. You know, I'm not going to eat garbanzo beans. I'm really not. But if they're on sale, I'll buy it. So that was easy. The pantry for me was an easy, low-hanging fruit. Might be something different for you. Maybe it's your records or your CDs or your movies.
So the low-hanging fruit is what you're saying, that go to those items that it's it's going to be easy to make a decision about, and therefore you get more motivated.
Yeah, because you get through that stuff and you're making progress, and that's the important thing. Progress needs to be celebrated. So really going to Andy's is a very good thing.
Just don't go too many times.
Yeah.
Then you're having to buy a whole new wardrobe.
So true. But you get the idea. You know, there's so one of the psychologists I work with sometimes talks about the stadium. You know, doing the stadium hurrah. You know, so after you're done, you know, you're yay. You know, I did this. And that, it sounds silly. It is so important. I can. Maybe afterwards, if you want to hear all the neuropsychology for why that works, I can explain it to you, but it's important to acknowledge your progress.
Okay. So acknowledge and celebrate, even the small.
Even those 10 minutes.
Okay, great. All right. So what do you find that seniors have the hardest time, and the things that seniors find the hardest in letting go? And what are some of the things they find easiest to let go? Typical. This is just typical.
Okay.
Not maybe you specifically.
So, there are a lot of individual differences, but for what's important. But sometimes things that are monetarily valuable, it can be a little hard to let go of. At least monetarily in their mind. I spend a lot of money for that thing. So holding on to it is not going to bring that money back. That's number one. The other thing is, the way our brains work, we always overvalue things.
Yes.
Just by possession. Just by the possession. There are tons of studies that support this. So it's not as valuable as you think. And three, when we talk about value, it's, people say, well, I'm very frugal. And frugality is a good virtue. But the frugality is about getting value for something. It's not saving money necessarily or spending a lot and holding on to that thing. It's about getting value. And if it's a thing you're not using, there is zero value in it. I don't care how much money you pay for it.
Okay, good tip. So I understand that on average it said that we make about 35,000 decisions a day. Okay?
That's a lot.
So now imagine how high that number skyrockets to when you're making decisions about downsizing and letting go of stuff. So talk to us about, it's hard to make those decisions, but what do people experience when they're going through this? I mean, that's a lot of decisions, and
I can tell you what ARP and what I was able to do. I was able to go into a room. This is a pile that I'm going to keep. I know I'm going to use it. This is a pile that I'm not going to use to donate. They also suggest you have a pile to sell. I'm not going on eBay and selling stuff, trust me. I don't want that kind of thing. I don't want a garage sale either. So that goes in the pile that I don't need. And then there has to be another pile. There has to be a trash pile, because you know what? Some of this stuff is trash. If it's a small, bent, a hair bow from 1925, it's trash, no matter what it means to us. So that's how I was able to start the process. Denise will probably tell you why it works, but that really, if you have a purpose rather than saying, okay, what am I going to do with this? If you have a purpose, am I going to keep it? Am I going to let it go, give it to someone who can use it, or to Goodwill or wherever? Or is it really trash? Which is the hardest decision to make if it's really trash.
I'm still reeling with 35,000 decisions, oh my gosh.
So there's a thing called decision fatigue. And I think we've probably all experienced it, and that's why these ladies recommend doing this in smaller stints, okay? Chunking it down. You know, the decision fatigue is when, you know, somebody asks, you know, what do you want for dinner? And you're like, I don't know, I don't care, just pick someplace, okay? Because you've made so many decisions, your brain can't even process that. So I think great advice on the low-hanging fruit, on starting with the easier things and doing it in small time chunks.
Yeah, and you know, decision fatigue, your brain uses something like 30% of your energy. Okay, that little 3-pound organ uses like 30% of your calories. Okay, so that's decision fatigue. There's a very physiological aspect to that. But it's also the reason why the great leaders in the world who have to make a lot of critical decisions have little rules that they can follow so they don't have to make a lot of decisions. So here's a rule. If you have magazines, if it's 2 months old, it goes out. So you really don't have to agonize over that decision. Oh, it's 2 months old. You know, this is my November magazine or October magazine. Oh, it just goes out. Not, oh, it was a good article. It's okay. So that's, yeah.
So what other kind of rules?
So let's talk about twist ties, because people love their twist ties, right? I mean, they're very handy objects. There are things that come to our lives that are very handy. But you can have too many twist ties. I have literally opened entire drawers filled with twist ties that are like overflowing even. Okay, so pick a number. Let's say 12. You'll have 12 twist ties. Do I need to keep this twist tie? Oh, I got 12. Nope. So any kind of rule like that can really make your life a whole lot easier. You know, I will have X number of shirts in my closet. Or if I buy a new pair of shoes, then an old pair of shoes have to go out. Those kind of rules really make life a whole lot simpler. And really, we all need a little more simplicity in our lives, right? Life is complicated as it is.
Yeah. So recently I've downsized my mom twice in the last 6 months. And it was very interesting. Experienced everything that you guys are talking about and more. But you know, when it came down to, okay, your closet, you have a huge walk-in closet and you've gone down to a slider closet, 2 of them, now you're going down to 1, okay? So how many winter coats do you really need, okay? You have 4, okay? Can we take it down to 2? Yeah, we can do that, okay. So what makes the most sense? So that's kind of how we did it, and we had a lot of laughs because when I was cleaning out her car, I said, Mom, I said, do you have a thing for umbrellas? And she said, no, why? And I said, how many umbrellas do you think were in your car? And she goes, well, maybe 2. I said, 6 in the car. That doesn't include what was in the garage as a backup. How many umbrellas do you need? You don't. You know? Pick one. One's good.
I think this is a really important point. You know, face these moments with humor. And also, humor and curiosity make this a whole lot easier.
It did. Yeah, I mean, that was, yeah, there was a lot of laughing, a few tears, of course. But, you know, I'm gonna remember the laughing parts, like all the umbrellas, so. All right, so Charlene, you talked about basically kind of like what our stand-up poster is there, the move, sell, donate, okay? Sorting things out. That's kind of what you were following in your downsizing. Denise, you mentioned something called an ambivalence box. So what about those things that you just can't make that final call on what to do with it?
So this is a little trick that organizers use. When you find you're stuck on something, and you're spending a lot of time stuck on this thing, do I keep it? Do I donate it? Do I keep it? Do I donate? And you just go back and forth and back and forth. You put this thing in a box, you put an expiration date on it, like a year, 6 months, something like that. If you do not access the item in the box by the expiration date, you pick up the box and you donate it. So that way, it's a way of kind of cutting the losses. Because if you're really stuck on something and you're just going back and forth, you're not making progress. And remember, progress is the thing you want to go for. So let's put that thing aside and go with something else. Just kind of start fresh.
That's a rule.
So that is a rule. The ambivalence box can be your friend. Now, if you find that everything is going, there's an issue that maybe needs to be addressed. But yeah, for that one-off item, ambivalence box can be a very helpful thing.
So we talked about tea party, pizza party, sending your husband to another country. Those are some tactics. Couple other things that we talked about that I wanted to touch on was we did talk about picking a recipient, okay, or you know, tea party, pizza party, inviting people in, saying, is there something you'd like, or are there lots of things you'd like? What we didn't talk about was taking photos and making a shrine.
Yeah, so
Speak to that.
So sometimes, I'm gonna use a teacher, client of mine, okay.
Charlene's a former teacher, if you
Yes,
remember that.
she had, oh my goodness, so many years of wonderful teaching, and just the stories of, she worked with younger kids, I think first graders maybe, really delightful woman, and you know, there were all kinds of mementos, because teachers get all kinds of gifts, right? Yes. And the books, and all the specials, the mugs, the books, the craft supply. I mean, teachers often have a lot of really good things. So what we did to kind of pay tribute to, you know, her wonderful career of launching these great people into the world, we took a couple things. We had a picture of one of her favorite classes, and a little frog figurine, and there were a couple other little things, and we had it like on a shelf, and that was her shrine to her teaching career. It was just a few things that basically was her way of honoring, you know, what she did, and kind of tying some of those really precious memories too. So a shrine could be a really good thing. I kind of have this little shrine to my parents on a tabletop where I've got a photo of them. I have an award that my dad received. I have this vase that's kind of mid-century modern, because they like mid-century modern. And it's just a little way that I can like look at that and it keeps that memory kind of close at heart, but is honorable too. This is really common, by the way, in many cultures, is to have these little shrines. So don't think of a shrine in terms of, worship, but think in terms of honoring and remembering. So a shrine's a really good thing. I talk about artifacts, that software where you can have a photo of something and you can write a story of the thing. You can just do that in a scrapbook too. Just take pictures of these things and handwrite the story about it. You could even start a blog probably if you're so inclined, where you take a picture of the thing and write a story and publish it. So, yeah.
Good. Charlene, let's talk about paperwork. And how do we properly dispose of paperwork?
First of all, it's a fire hazard. We all know that. However, we probably have a lot of bills left. There's only one word that you need to remember, and that's shred it. Okay, that's 2 words, I guess. Shred everything you have. There are people who are going to be able to get information from you from all of this wealth of utility bills, places where you live. What's the first question when you call the bank? Does any one of these addresses, did you ever live at one of these addresses? A person can pick that out of your trash. So the utility bills that you have from last year, the utilities are not going to let you get by without paying that bill. Once you pay it, you're done. If you don't pay it, they're going to come for you. So those kinds of things you do not need to keep. You get in touch with the IRS, they'll tell you how long to keep your paperwork for your taxes. Your bank, think about how long you have dealt with the same bank. Now it's been taken over by many different people, different conglomerates, but you've had the same bank for what, 20, 25 years? They have your records. You do not need the paperwork anymore. It's hard to admit that. My husband actually, I'm not picking on him, I'm sorry, but he has all of his pay stubs from when he first started working as an engineer, which is great, but it has his Social Security number on it, which you do not want to have. You do not want that loose. You don't want to carry your Social Security card with you. So that was the only way I was able to convince him to get rid of all that. There are so many ways for people to steal your identity, and I hate to admit it, but we're not that long for this world. So they thrive on us individuals because we may not have a lot of money, but we have more money than some of our children do, and they know that. And any bit of information they can get from you to steal your identity and buy a new house, buy a new car is valuable. So shred it. Okay, well, if you don't have a shredder at home, and trust me, there isn't one big enough for my house, your brokerage company probably will shred. If they don't shred, they have shredding events. Your bank also will have shredding events. If you have a lawyer or a CPA, they have shredding events. Also, within the community, ARP used to do this. I don't know why they don't do that anymore, because it's more important. They used to have shredding events. You can also get people to come to your house. You give them the shredding, so much a pound, and they will take it away from you. But the only way to truly safely get rid of all this paperwork is to shred it. Make it useless for anyone else who's going to take it from you.
Shred it.
Cross shredded.
Cross shredding is the important thing. Yeah, if you go to a professional like Shred Pro, Shred It, they'll do the cross shredding. I mean, that's really important. The little strips you can put together. There's a company in St. Louis. It's not in a stellar neighborhood. I think it's right off of 170 and I think Airport Road, called Central Paper Stock. You can bring 500 pounds of paper to them, and it's like $25, and they'll shred it. So that's a whole lot cheaper than going to Office Depot, which is like $1 a pound.
Yeah, absolutely. My grandkids like to shred, so that gives them something to do sometimes when they come over is shredding things, so I just make a pile. And I wanted to point out that we have a handout there with resources for you that you might not have captured all of the places that they've been speaking of, but there's a lot of good resources on there about how to get rid of things, where to donate, and it includes shredding. So what about our electronics and printers? How do we dispose of those correctly?
Oh, go to an electronic recycler who is certified. Okay, that's important. Now, a lot of communities are doing electronic recycling events, and there's a company like Mid-America Recycling, MRS I think is what it is. They do a lot of those, and they're certified. And another Spectrum E-Cycling Solutions, which is on Page Industrial Court. I go to these places a lot, obviously. Page Industrial Court right off of Page. They're also certified. You do not want your electronic equipment out there. Think about all your emails. You know what's on your printer? All those, printers have hard drives.
I did not know this.
Printers have hard drives. Everything you copied, printed, is on that hard drive. If you copy something, that has your personal information on it, like a social security number, or maybe, some medical papers or insurance cards, that's on the hard drive. This is why you want to have things disposed of by professionals, again, who are certified.
Okay. So we've talked about how to kind of do it yourself, okay? But some of us need extra hands-on assistance. So there's professional organizers out there like yourself. Tell us, what does that look like when you hire a professional organizer? What's that process involve, and how long it takes?
So first of all, National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals, NAPO, NAPO.net. Don't go to .com because you'll find out about pizza. NAPO.net. That is an organization of, as the name implies, people like me and productivity folks. There's also another organization. If you feel that maybe you need just kind of some special help, there's the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, which is challengingdisorganization.org. That is a group of professional organizers and mental health professionals who specialize in working with folks who've had lifelong issues with their clutter. I'm also a member of ICD. You can look, this is where you want to go for organizing help, because this is your personal information. This is, I tell people, when you have somebody who's in your tax papers in your underwear drawer, you want to have somebody who's completely trustworthy. So this is why you want to go to NAPO or ICD to get help. Don't just hire off of Craigslist or, go with a trustworthy person. You talk to that person on the phone, talk to several. Tell them what your project is, what your goals are. They'll ask you questions, you'll ask them. And it's just like hiring somebody else. You're gonna get a feel for somebody.
So you need to vet.
Yeah.
Vet the person.
You need to vet
Very
the person.
strongly.
Because, again, you're going to be having poignant conversations with this person. I've been doing this for 18 plus years. I have worked with all kinds of folks. I have worked with military guys who, in telling some of their stories, came to tears. I have worked with great-grandmothers who, in telling their stories, were just beaming with joy. This is a person who's going to be on that roller coaster with you. You want a person you feel completely comfortable with and completely safe with.
They need to be
Because-
compassionate.
Totally
And
compassionate.
understanding and patient.
And patient and not judgmental. And yeah, you don't want somebody saying, why are you keeping all that stuff? You know, that's not a good place. So talk to several organizers, get a feel, and then you can hire them. So an organizer is probably going to cost between $40 to maybe $100 an hour. Okay, the more
How much was that? I'm sorry.
$40 to about $100 an hour.
Okay.
The more experienced person is probably going to charge more. This is an area where maybe you don't want to, go cheap.
Yeah, okay, so can you hire somebody do you hire them by the project, by the hours? Can you have somebody come in just to help give you a start?
Yeah, so every organizer works a little bit differently, but a lot of them will do just a consultation, a paid consultation, where basically you kind of come up with this plan together. And some will come in and, help you develop this plan, but also help you execute that plan. Like when I'm working with folks, I give homework. Okay, now I'm not going to give you a grade when you turn your homework in, like, is it an A or not? But it's like, okay, this is what we worked on today. I want you to practice those skills that we used today and use it on this spot over here. Okay? And if you get stuck, you call me because progress is the important thing. I'm not unique in that way. A lot of organizers do that. They'll give homework. This is a good thing because one, it helps you reinforce those skills, but it also kind of helps diminish the cost too.
Sure, yeah, and you're teaching a man to fish.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they can keep on applying, using those skills in the
Yeah.
future.
Yep.
Okay, all right, good to know. Okay, so, do people, is this a 3-year process? Is this a 6-week process? What, give us some idea.
There is no one answer on this. So what determines how long it's going to take? Well, there are several factors. One is the volume. Do you live in a 2,900 square foot house? Or do you live in a 1,200 square foot house? Is it really full? Is it not so full? Does it have a basement? Does it have an attic? Does it have a garage?
Oh, yeah.
Storage units, that's a whole special thing too. So it's the volume. We have to look at that. We have to look at readiness. Some people are not as ready as others, and that's going to affect the speed at which decisions are made. All right, that's the one thing I can't predict on the phone. How fast will somebody make decisions? I'm working with a person right now. I kind of anticipated decisions would take a long time. She has a background of hoarding disorder, and we need to downsize her. Again, this is a second downsize for her. I was concerned about how long it would take. Oh man, she was ready. Boom, 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 boom. We finished early each day. So that's something we just can't predict. You can't predict.
And do you spend 8 hours
No.
yeah.
No. You could, I guess, do this in 6 weeks, but you had long days, right? It was exhausting. Yeah, so I work in 3-hour chunks. And, it's long enough to get something done, but at the same time, you're not so exhausted. But one other driver for this is also your physical abilities. Because some folks don't have a lot of stamina. And if it's, I don't want folks like so exhausted after I leave that they say, oh my gosh, I've got to take a nap now. Yeah, then we cut back on time a little bit.
Yeah,
But you just, you
and the
don't.
older that you are, or if your health is
Yeah.
declining, we certainly experience that quite a bit. So, all right, well, we're getting really, really close to time here, so we want to open it up for questions in a second. Charlene, tell us about what ARP offers for assistance in downsizing resources.
The resources we have are tremendous. I don't know if you've been on AARP's site, but they offer a huge variety. I've compiled a list that's in the back for just in our area, a little bit of in our area. Also, on AARP.com, there is a downsizing booklet that will take you by the hand and go one by one. Number one, you do this. Number two, you do this. It goes through each and every room of the house. I wish I could give it away, but they're cheap. And you have to download it yourself on your own computer. I'm sorry. I wish they would do that because I could have used one in my hand. You can use one on your computer, but it's not as convenient. So there are plenty of resources with AARP. AARP.com.
Okay, and I found out in talking to Denise, there's a group called Clutterers Anonymous. And this is not probably for maybe the majority of us in here, but just maybe if you are one of those people that really, really struggle and you feel like you're a hoarder, it's a 12-step program. So it would be people who have an extreme issue with this. Obviously, I guess it's based on AA's program, and that the Maryland Heights, I think.
Yeah, I know so they will meet in person, just like AA does. And again, just like AA, it's anonymous. And they also have online groups that meet. So if you're finding you're really struggling with your stuff, and you have a lot of stuff where it's affecting the quality of your life, this might be a resource for you. Because again, in the end, it's not the stuff that's important, it's about our relationship, our feelings about the stuff. That's what's driving all of this.
All right, so that's a great reminder. Another one was recognize and celebrate the progress, the success. Charlene, can you think of any other last-minute tidbits, reminders of things important?
There's one thing that we all laugh about, our generation laughs about, but if you want to get rid of something, Google it. It sounds ridiculous, but I had a piano that I don't play, my husband doesn't play anymore, the kids had moved on and bought their own piano. So I Googled, who do I give a piano to that I don't want? You know what, it came up with 3 different places, one that was in St. Louis. So use that. There's never a stupid question, and Google knows everything. So ask that question to them. It's actually pianos for people. They'll come and they'll pick it up, they'll tune it, they'll take care of it, and they will give it to a family or an individual who needs a piano.
Really wants it. We try to keep all of these resources on our website, and also, so you know, we video these and have them available on our website as well. So if you're interested in replaying anything, the option is there. So thank you ladies so much, and we would like to open it up for questions now. In the back, please, and speak loud, otherwise we can, how about I run a microphone to you?
Okay. One quick suggestion, if you had a little presents that you got that you're never going to use, give them to a nursing home, because they have bingo and they do all that kind of stuff, and they love it because they don't have the budget for it. So that's what I try to encourage people to do.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea. We just sponsored a bingo at a retirement community that I paid money so that they could buy the prizes. All right, we gotta head back here real quick.
From the death cleaning book, she talks about having a personal box as you're going through your things, and these are things that you want to hold on to and are precious and special to you, put them in that box and then right across the top, throw this away when I'm gone.
Giving permission to get rid of it after you're gone. Okay.
Two things. I belong to Cornerstone Methodist Church on Tom Ginevra, and we do Rob Your Neighbor at Twin Oaks. And so our group makes up little bags that they can have. So if you have anything, you can drop it off and say rob your neighbor, and the secretary there will take it at Cornerstone Methodist on Tom Ginevra. So that's a good idea. And it just thrills them to pieces. The other thing is, what do we do with VHS tapes? You know, I have a 38-year-old son, and boy, we have them all. From the get-go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was just working with somebody last night and like an entire box of VHS tapes. So if they are VHS tapes that are like have your family movies, you can have those digitized. I know Schiller's does it locally, and there are places that you can like mail the tape to, and
That's what we
and
did.
they'll digitize those family movies for you. But Schiller's is a local outlet.
Disney. Every Disney tape ever made.
So the weird thing is, believe it or not, that some Disney VHS tapes are valuable. So Google it and see if it is. But sometimes libraries will take them. You can, believe it or not, you can check with your local library if they'll take it. Goodwill is still taking tapes. And then if it's the box of tapes that, you were, recording Seinfeld on, you can, I know Spectrum E-Cycling will recycle those, but you have to pay. And I think it's $1 per pound. You'll have to look at their website, but I think it's $1 per pound.
Okay, next question.
Doing the same thing. What do you do with encyclopedias? I have like 5 sets of encyclopedias.
5 sets.
Yeah, so,
My oldest granddaughter, everything.
yeah. Encyclopedias that are more than a couple years old, you can take to Central Paper Stock and they can be recycled.
Crackers?
It's old information. Crafters will sometimes take it.
Maybe
Again,
leftovers.
Yeah, maybe leftovers, which is a great resource for all kinds of
Ironically,
craft stuff.
that is one item that my son wanted, was the encyclopedias from when I was a kid. So, I mean, who knows? But anyway, that was something that he's like, this is so cool, I want my kids to know what an encyclopedia is and what we used to have to do, so.
Regarding the VHS tapes, V-Stock over at Mid Rivers Mall, I took some last year. They'll take them. They don't give you but maybe 10 cents a tape, but at least you get rid of them.
Yeah. V-Stock.
You're not
Okay, let's repeat that again, because that's what, V-Stock.
Stock.
V is in Victory, over at Mid Rivers Mall.
And Mid Rivers Mall,
And there's
okay.
another one at Chesterfield.
There is one at Chesterfield.
Okay,
Right. It's a
very good. And will they only take commercial? Because there's often, as opposed to, this is my home recording of Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah, they'll only take, like Disney or what,
Right.
any kind of VHS movie.
There are commercial restrictions,
They also
copyright
take
restrictions around those things.
CDs and I believe not 8-tracks, but cassette tapes,
All that stuff's coming back, records are coming back.
Yeah.
Don't get rid of your records.
Yeah, don't get rid of mine. Do not get rid of mine.
It's coming back, folks.
I have a comment on the encyclopedias. About, I guess, it's 15 years ago when we downsized my mom's place. We had a lady come through to buy the encyclopedias, okay? And we asked her why. She was from St. Louis, I'm from Mid-Missouri. And she was from St. Louis area hitting small garage sales. And that's what we were having, a garage sale in the house. And people were picking up things. And she told us that there was a place in St. Louis, again, this was 15 years ago, that was collecting these encyclopedias, and sending them to third world countries to teach them how to speak English. This is how the kids learn. They don't have books like a lot of us, but they were learning things about things that encyclopedias offer. They don't have internet, they still don't. But maybe that's something that could be Googled and, encyclopedias go there.
Yeah, let me know anytime you find resources like this. We'll continue to add them to our website. So
If I can talk about books, our military definitely needs books. If you have a paperback or a hardbound book, our military is glad to take them.
okay, Sally.
I was wondering if anybody had experience with any of the junk removal companies and which ones are good and which ones aren't.
Oh, yes. I work a lot with them. So one thing I would recommend is going to napostl.com. So that's the local branch of the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. And they're, yes, that one is a .com. That's napostl.com. And there are a number of haulers who are associated with and they've been vetted. So one thing, when it comes to hauling, do not use what one of my friends calls chuck in a truck. Chuck in a truck. That's not a name, that's not the name of a company. You want somebody who is a professional. I'm going to tell you why. Because the person that says, oh yeah, I'll haul that off for you for, $40. And you think, gosh, the other hauler, I'm going to just pick on one, 2 men in a truck or college hunks hauling junk, they want it $100. The $40 guy that you just called off of Craigslist probably doesn't have a business license, probably doesn't have a license to dump at the landfill, and guess what? There's going to be stuff with your identifying information on it. Guess who's going to pay the fine? Mm-hmm.
Okay. Joanne.
So the other thing is that these companies like College Hunks hauling junk, I use them a lot. Just they will take things to a weigh station, and they will say, "Look, this is in perfectly good shape. Donate." Oh, this stuff here. This really needs to go to the hazardous waste facility. Great. Oh, this is electronics. This needs to go to electronic recycling. So it doesn't all go to the landfill. They basically sort it out in a responsible and appropriate way. So they may cost a little bit more than the guy you get off of Craigslist, but it's safe and they're being responsible.
Okay, thank you. Joanne.
I've gotten some great ideas today, and one of them, I thought you talked about pizza parties and stuff, and I decided that whenever family or friends come over, I'm just going to have door prizes.
I will feed you, but you must take some.
That is a tweetable job. Thank you.
I like that a lot.
Love that. Okay, sorry. One more.
I like that a lot. Door prizes.
You can only do that
Okay.
once, though.
Best Buy takes a lot of recycled things, like I've taken up their different things, fire alarms without the batteries. You can check with them with it. They take them for free, and you just step right inside the door, give it to them, and you're out of there. So Best Buy. And then the other thing is, does anybody have suggestions for vinyl? Like somebody that might go reconsignment shop might take them. I need to get rid of a lot of it.
Vintage vinyl. Yeah, vintage vinyl. We'll buy it.
Vintage vinyl. Half price books, they take vinyl there as well, and I think they may take movies in that
You really
also.
might want to hang on to the vinyl. It's coming back.
Yeah.
As long as it's appropriate life.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Sandy?
You mentioned that the military can take books. How do you recycle those books for the military? What do you do?
It's really pretty simple. AARP, of course, I volunteer for them. They've actually gotten, I think it's books for troops, and we collect it. They know that we're collecting books. They put in book orders to us. They want a mystery book. They want a romance book. We don't take anything that's suggestive. I mean, we do kind of monitor that a little bit. Or maybe they want a book on how to build a bookcase, and if we have it, we send it to them. And it's cost through the postage. But, find someone else to pay for it, like AARP.
Thank you. That's a great tip there. So, and I know, Charlene, you brought some handouts from AARP on this subject, and actually some nice grocery bags. Yes, that they have that we have in the back for you to pick up as well. So, one last thing, and then we're going to call it, so you can come up and talk to our panelists. Yes, sir.
If you have large items of furniture that you want to donate, like a sharing shed and that, it has to be in your garage. You know who you can get to help move that 6-piece furniture set to your garage?
High school kid in the neighborhood.
That's a good idea, hire a couple Brawny football players.
What we do, just when we're working with clients that we are helping do the move management, is we know that and we know who will take what, but we will have the movers, usually it's involved a professional mover, and that's like the last things that we have them bring up and put in the garage. So you are paying a little bit for it, but they can do it like that. So, and then you can get it to a great place like Shearing Shed. They're awesome at that. So, what's that? Yeah, there is some labor places like U-Haul and Calatongs and all that. They will do it as well. So, okay, all right. Well, that is it. We have information in back for you to pick up. We have a sign-up for our next month's seminar, which is travel, and the first time we broached that subject, we're going to have some great folks speak on that. So how about a round of applause for our lovely ladies? Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Charlene. And hope to have you back sometime soon. They'll be sticking around if you want to speak to them in person.